So, everybody, this is my last World Cup qualifying reaction video from this international break. And it's my last video for tonight. It's reaction to Asia's games. Um, so, let's just jump right in. So, I mentioned before in a previous video that South Korea and South Korea and Saudi Arabia had qualified for the World Cup. But I didn't give my reactions to match days in Asia. So, starting off in Group A, Syria honestly has to be considered an upset that they got a result in Tehran and they broke Iran's incredibly impressive clean sheet record in the final round of Asian qualifying. 9 matches in the final round of Asian qualifying, Iran had not conceded any goals, uh, but they conceded two at home in Tehran in the Azadi Stadium against Syria. One of them coming in stoppage time. That on the counterattack. It's a miracle. Because how many people thought Syria would still be in contention at the end of Asian qualifying or at the end of the third round, right before only the playoffs remain? Not very many. This was a team that was expected to finish in their group either at or near the bottom, um, along with Qatar and China. But incredibly, Syria made a comeback, garnering 8 points from their final 4 games and getting results against better opposition in Uzbekistan and Iran to steal the playoff spot. And guys, Syria went ahead first. So in the live standings at some point a couple of days ago, Syria were sitting in second and would have qualified directly if they held on to that lead. That is stunning. Just completely out of nowhere, stunning. Regardless, though, because they equalized against Iran, they saved their campaign. They are going to the playoffs. That second goal doesn't go in, Uzbekistan would still be alive. But Uzbekistan have finished in fourth. And speaking of Uzbekistan, another disappointing World Cup qualifying campaign, another close but no cigar type scenario. This time they don't even get the playoff. They are eliminated in fourth place. Syria stealing it at the last moment. And honestly, Uzbekistan don't really deserve to go to the World Cup because I watched highlights of that game. I watched a large portion of the second half. And this was a team that just lacked creativity up front. This was a game where South Korea were, as usual, poor. That Uzbekistan, I believe, struck the post a couple of times or 3 times. They were lacked creativity up front, so it wasn't just a matter of being unlucky. This team genuinely did not know what they were doing in front of goal, and I think South Korea themselves also had multiple opportunities to get the road win here. But at the end of the day, Uzbekistan, it's nice to see fresh blood in the World Cup, new blood, but they didn't deserve it. South Korea slumping their way across the finish line, 2 goalless draws in their last 2 games. I mean, I guess it's job done, but I don't know if they can say job well done. I know a lot of South Korean soccer fans and the media and the press there are disappointed in the fashion in which South Korea have qualified. The team don't look very good. They don't look convincing. They look like a group stage exit waiting to happen. Just as in 2014, it's like a mirror image reflection of their poor 2014 qualifying cycle, hammered in Brazil, and it looks like it's going to repeat here unless something changes. And then Iran. I mean, Iran already qualified, so it makes points. It makes sense why they dropped points in their last 2 games. They got 2 draws. Um, I believe they were undefeated. They have not. They didn't lose a single game. They were the only team in this group to not lose a single game. They are the best side in Asia. So it might be disappointing for Iranian fans that they let go of their clean sheet record, but they're through to the World Cup anyway. And then China versus Qatar. Well, Qatar at home against China. China rallying late to come back from behind to win the game 2-1 after being down 1-0. China finishing on 12 points. China actually not finishing too far away from third place because Syria finished with 13, Uzbekistan on 13, China on 12, South Korea qualified with 15. So those four teams are all within 3 points of each other. China markedly improved under Marcello Lippi, the Italian World Cup winning manager from 2006. He's worked wonders for this Chinese team. And had one other result gone their way, another 3 points from another game, China could arguably have been in the third place spot or even have qualified directly, stunningly. Because I remember that they gave up a 2-1 lead on the road against Syria. They win that match, that's 15 points. They're level with South Korea. So we look at Syria and we feel happy for them. We look at Uzbekistan as like, oh, that's too bad. Everyone's not talking. No one's talking about China. China almost stole this. China almost sneaked in to the playoffs. So, Group A was very close all the way down to the end, and Syria, just what a story! Congratulations on getting to the playoffs. They play against Australia, and speaking of Australia, going to Group B, Australia have no one to blame but themselves. I know one of my subscribers, Will Waters, is probably really disappointed that Australia has to go through 4 games now to qualify. But you look at the way they played against Thailand. This really what cost Australia direct qualification was both games against Thailand, dropping points on the road. In fact, almost losing to the Thais on the road. And then this here, just barely scraping a win, 2-1 at home. It's just unacceptable. I mean, it's not acceptable. They should win against Thailand comfortably, even though Thailand is an improved team. But when you leave it late in the 87th minute to grab a winner against Thailand, then you don't really. There's no one to blame but themselves. Maybe Ange Postecoglou. He got his tactics wrong, whatever. But it should be almost expected because Japan went into the last match against Saudi Arabia not needing a victory. Not only were they assured of qualification, they were assured of finishing top of the group, just like Iran were guaranteed to finish top of their group when they qualified. So that the very first sign of Saudi Arabia going ahead, Japan just didn't have any incentive, didn't have any initiative to get back into the game. So right then and there, Australia were in trouble when Saudi Arabia went ahead. But even if Australia had beaten Thailand 3-0, which shouldn't have been that hard to do, it really should not have been that hard to do, a 1-0 victory for Saudi Arabia over Japan would not be enough for Saudi Arabia. The reason why a 1-0 victory was enough was because Australia did not put more goals in the back of Thailand's net. If Australia had won by 3 goals, Saudi Arabia would have had to beat Japan by 2 goals. And I think that would have been much more unlikely, instead of just Saudi Arabia needing a win in general by any scoreline to advance. But Australia could not take care of business against Thailand. So they're going to have to qualify the hard way, just as they did in 2006. Which 2006, they kind of had to go to a playoff because they are part of Oceania. So that was out of their control. But here, this was completely within their control, and they let it slip. And then elsewhere in the group, Iraq against the United Arab Emirates. UAE were still alive heading into this. They needed to win this match by I believe by 6 or more goals to have a chance of reaching the playoff, while hoping that other results go their way. That didn't happen. Iraq got the home win, 1-0, ending their campaign with 2 wins on a high note with 11 points. In 5th, UAE with 13 points in 4th. So now we have our playoff set, and it is Syria against Australia. Ooh, I'm not going to give a prediction for that because it's a month away from now. and I'll make my predictions for the playoffs when the time comes. But it's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough two-legged playoff, Syria and Australia. So leave a comment below, like, subscribe. What are your thoughts on Asian World Cup qualifying? Would you have liked to have seen a new team make it? Did you have any preferences? I guess, who do you think has the advantage in the Syria-Australia two-legged playoff? And I'll see you guys in my next video. I'll see you guys tomorrow, God willing. Until then, have a good night, much love, and peace out.